my name's DJ Angelo and I'd like to introduce you to Reloop's first digital mixing controller designed especially for Serato, the Terminal Mix. The flagship Terminal Mix 4 is a 4-channel device which features an extensive range of controls for a unique and creative mixing experience. The Terminal Mix 2 offers exactly the same powerful functions but in a 2-channel version. Both devices are completely plug and play straight out of the box, so within a matter of minutes you could be live and in the mix using the latest Serato software. And for those wanting to perform on 4 decks, we've included a Virtual DJ 4-deck edition for the Terminal Mix 4. If Traktor Pro is your software of preference, Reloop also has you covered here, as Traktor mappings for the Terminal Mix are available to download via the Reloop support page. So let's take a closer look. The Terminal Mix series have been specifically designed to meet the needs of modern digital DJs and proudly set a new standard for fully integrated controllers. All controls are laid out clearly and intuitively for efficient and engaging live performances. The knobs, encoders and backlit buttons feel secure and are highly responsive, particularly the large rubber transport buttons which provide precise triggering and playback. Thanks to the aluminium jog wheels and the sturdy outer case, the Terminal Mix is highly durable whilst also being conveniently lightweight. Its ability to be powered entirely via USB allows for even more portability, which is really something impressive considering all of the controls and LEDs featured on both units. The Terminal Mix offers high quality audio characteristics either via the balanced outputs or unbalanced outputs found at the rear of the unit. Expect to hear high output levels with punchy bass, rich mid-ranges and crispy high-ends to meet the standards of today's clubs. Also at the rear of the Terminal Mix is an auxiliary input for playing an external line or phono source through the device, which for example can be used to jam with other DJ setups or maybe to connect an MP3 player. The volume control for the aux input can be found on the front of the unit, where you can also find a microphone input with independent volume and EQ controls. Before using your Terminal Mix, first install the software either on your Mac or PC from the disk provided. If you're a PC user, make sure you install the ASIO driver also included on the installation disk. Now that your software is installed, you can access all of your existing crates or iTunes libraries from within Serato DJ Intro. If you're new to Serato, it won't take you long to get up to speed. To set up a new crate, just click on the Add Crate icon and drag tracks over from your hard drive directly into the new crate. Alternatively, you can navigate via the File menu and drag tracks or even entire folders into the Crate View area. So let's load some tracks into the decks. The Tracks Encoder is your main tool for navigating through your music libraries. First, select a crate or iTunes playlist by turning the Tracks Encoder. Now push the Tracks Encoder to delve into that chosen crate, and from here you can browse individual tracks by turning the Tracks Encoder again. If you want to go back a step and select a different playlist, simply hit the back button. Once you've chosen a track to play, just hit the designated load button assigned to each deck, which are found above each channel fader. With the Terminal Mix, I have complete control over the playback of my tracks. For example, I can toggle the range of the pitch control between plus and minus 8, 16 or 50% using this button here, and I can also toggle key lock on and off using this designated button here. As you can see, each of the channels has its own line fader, headphone cue, bipolar filter, three-band EQ and gain. Intuitively, the middle section is where you can find the global controls such as the master, booth and headphone volumes, and the cue mix knob which allows you to fade between cued channels and the master output. There's also an independent volume control for the sample player and a Tracks Encoder section for mouseless browsing. The Terminal Mix features a powerful transport section consisting of play or pause, cue, cup, sync and deck switch. Hitting play will start your track instantly, and by hitting it again, the track pauses with a turntable braking effect. The cue button lets you set a cue point anywhere whilst the track is paused. Once assigned, your track will pause and jump back to this position anytime the cue button is pressed again. The cut button, which stands for cue and play, will launch your track from the assigned cue point even if the track is paused. For instant beat matching, the sync button automatically synchronises one track to the other. Reloop listened to the requests of many DJs and has integrated 14-bit high-resolution pitch faders with a length of 100mm, allowing for extremely precise manual beat matching. For even more hands-on control, the large ultra-flat aluminium jog wheels can be used to either pitch bend, scratch, or quickly search through your tracks. Thanks to the tight integration between Terminal Mix and Serato, the Jog Wheels are highly responsive and offer a vinyl-like grip surface, which turntablists will definitely appreciate. To optimise the performance between the Terminal Mix and Serato, open the setup screen, where you can adjust the latency by moving the USB buffer slider. The lower the sample rate, the tighter Serato will respond to actions from the Terminal Mix. However, this will demand more CPU power, so be sure to find your optimum setting to achieve the best performance and avoid audio dropouts. You can also keep up to date with any changes and improvements Serato makes to their software by simply clicking Check for Updates. This will automatically launch the internet and determine whether a more recent update is available to download. It allows you to assign up to 4 cue points to each track via the Terminal Mix hot cue section. For the most precise method, cue the track in pause mode to the exact position you want the cue point to be assigned. Then simply hit your chosen hot cue button. When a cue point is assigned, the corresponding hot cue button glows red. Alternatively, cue points can also be assigned on the fly as the track is playing. To delete an unwanted cue point, simply hold Shift and press the corresponding hot cue button. Shift functions like this can also be made easier by flicking the Shift lock switch found at the rear of the unit, which allows you to choose between Shift hold and Shift toggle modes. A nice feature in Serato is the sample player, which enables you to trigger up to 4 samples whilst in the mix using the designated 4 sample buttons on the Terminal Mix.
DJ Angelo.
Once an audio file has been loaded into a sample slot, it can be triggered repeatedly using the corresponding sample button. To stop the sample whilst playing, hold Shift and press the sample button again. If your sample has assigned cue points, you can select these here to determine where the sample will start playing from.
Somebody make some noise in this joint, man!
The sample player has its own independent volume control, which is handy for quickly fading samples in and out, or to get the perfect balance between your samples and your tracks.
DJ Angelo.
The Terminal Mix has specific controls to support the looping functions in Serato. To trigger an auto loop, I first set the quantized loop size by turning the loop encoder to choose between 1, 2, 4 or 8 beat loops. The loop is then activated by pushing the loop encoder at your chosen position in the track. Pushing the loop encoder again deactivates the loop and the track will continue playing. To set up a manual loop that isn't automatically quantized to the beat, hold Shift and press the in button at the start of your desired loop and then hit the out button to mark the end of the loop. The in and out buttons will then blink to indicate that the loop has been activated. From here, pressing the in button again and then turning the jog wheel allows you to manually move the loop start position. Alternatively, pressing the out button and turning the jog wheel will move the loop end position. Once again, to deactivate the loop, simply push the loop encoder knob. Let's take a look at the effects section. Serato comes complete with its own effects unit with several to choose from, such as a high pass filter, low pass filter, reverb, echo and flanger. By using the effects section at the top of the terminal mix, up to 3 effects per deck can be activated simultaneously, with each effect having its own on-off button and wet-dry control. This encoder on the right is the beats multiplier, which allows you to choose the effect time, and by default this is synced to the BPM of the current track. Hitting the tap button lets you set the effect time manually. To return to the deck BPM, just hold down the tap button for a couple of seconds. Terminal mix. Make sure that all software is closed during these procedures. To adjust the brightness of all of the LEDs on your terminal mix, simply hold down the tracks encoder together with the back button and the prep button whilst powering up the unit. You will now see that all LEDs on the terminal mix are lit up. The tracks encoder can then be turned to set the LEDs to one of 4 levels of brightness. To save your personal preference, push the tracks encoder, and after a couple of seconds the terminal mix will restart automatically. The touch sensitivity of the jog wheels can also be adjusted to your liking for each side independently. This time, hold down the tracks encoder together with the crates button and the back button, and then power up your terminal mix. Now if you turn the loop move encoder, you're able to choose a sensitivity value between 1 and 10, indicated by the position of the LED in either the loop, hot cue or sample section of your terminal mix. If I turn the loop move encoder to the highest sensitivity value, represented by the loop in button, you can see that the jog mode button lights up without me even touching the platter. And if I select the lowest sensitivity value, represented by sample button 4, the jog wheel touch is completely deactivated. We recommend a middle sensitivity value, which the terminal mix is set to by default. To save your chosen sensitivity value, hit the tracks encoder and the terminal mix will restart again automatically. To check which version of the firmware is currently installed in your terminal mix, simply hold down the tracks encoder together with the crates button and the view button, and again power up your terminal mix. You should now see that some of the buttons are lit up. The hot cue buttons represent the values 10, 20, 30 and 40, and the transport buttons below represent the values 1 to 9. In this case I have hot cue 1 lit up, which is 10, and 7 transport buttons, which means I have version 17 of the firmware installed, as 10 plus 7 is 17. Please refer to the Reloop product page to check whether a firmware update is necessary. If so, download the appropriate firmware update here, including the latest Java update. When the files have been downloaded, double check that all software is closed. Now, hold down the tracks encoder together with the load 1 and load 2 buttons, and then power up your terminal mix. Your device will start up in firmware upgrade mode, and you'll see an LED sequence going from left to right. Now open the Java update tool, which you downloaded earlier. Click on Open File and navigate to the downloaded firmware update file. Select it, click Open and press Start to begin the firmware update process. As the terminal mix is updating, you'll see the progress displayed by the hotkey buttons lighting up from left to right. When the update is complete, the terminal mix will restart automatically, and you'll also see a pop-up message on your computer screen confirming that the update was successful.